Well, here we go. I'm a day late and $1 short, and even late tonight. I was going to do a live stream last night, but I was just exhausted, folks. I have been just, as you know, going through some difficult things, and I haven't been eating. Kind of curious what I'm going to weigh tomorrow, because here's an example of my typical day. I eat a banana in the morning. Today, I ate 3 tamales. I used to eat 6 tamales and a cup of rice. All I can do is eat 3 tamales in a meal. And then I didn't even have dinner till just a few minutes ago. I got a bowl of cereal. That's all I eat. It's ridiculous. I bet you I'm down close to 25 pounds now. But hey, we could always lose some weight, right? So I had a... Hey, FE Free 4A, I have some interesting news. It's been kind of interesting since the wife has left. I haven't had any excuses of, her causing stress or anything else. And today I've always had trouble sleeping at night. And, it's just the mind won't stop. That's been an ongoing problem for years. But today I was just kind of sitting in my chair, and usually about 2 o'clock, I kind of doze off a little bit. And as I was in the early parts of dozing off, I had a flashback from work of a meeting. And then all of a sudden I just blurted out really loud a bunch of cuss words. And I'm like, what the heck was that? It kind of woke me up. I'm like, this is what my wife had been complaining about. Why are you cussing so much? Why are you so angry? And I had... it kind of came to me. It's like, okay, this is not normal. And I've realized this is the only other time I really remember this happening is like when I'm, in the middle of sleep, I'll kind of do the same thing. And then if I'm taking a shower, like when I'm really relaxed in the morning, I do the same thing. So the funny thing is I did some research and I said, this is like some kind of stress related thing. What the heck? And, when I researched, I always just I heard about PTSD. I said, it can't be PTSD because I haven't been to war or anything. I haven't had problems with, like house fires or as a fireman or a policeman seeing a bunch of dead bodies. But truthfully, the job that I had was very stressful. I worked on some of the worst problems the company had. And it was always, after they'd already blown a bunch of money, and it had to be solved right away because we were just bleeding like crazy. So they threw me in this stuff all the time. There were so many times where I'd be sitting in a meeting at 2 o'clock and they said, you're on a plane tonight. You got to go out there and go fix this thing. That was all the time. And I mean, I'd get to the hotel at midnight and then I'd be going to some place where I didn't know, in the middle of snow and everything else. But in any event, what's happened is all the things that I keep remembering are all about work. I have like PTSD is basically brain trauma. And it's not something defective with you. It's a chemical imbalance, and it's very treatable. What happens is, and I'll explain that I went through a really bad situation this year when I was doing the taxes. I think I had mentioned that in the previous video. And what happened is when I'm sitting here doing this for like a week straight, that's how long it takes to kind of go through the whole thing. It puts me kind of back in my work environment because it's very tedious, very specific type data. And I start remembering doing stuff like this, like I used to do at work. And so I could only sit there for like a day, do it, and then I'd have to take a week off to try to decompress. And what happens is your brain goes into flight or fright. Or fight or flight, whichever way it is, they say it one way or the other. And with PTSD folks, you don't come off the ledge. It takes a long time for your body to come back. But because I've been doing this for so long, I need to have something that breaks that cycle and get it back down. And so they have some things that they give you, and then you do like psychotherapy and stuff to try to get to the root cause and knock it out. But I thought it was really interesting because this is actually amazing news, because this is something they can actually do brain scans and see the extent of the damage it's not really damage. It's just the way your brain is functioning. And then after you go through like they give you some drugs initially to kind of, level you out a little bit. And then after you do your therapeutic sessions and stuff, you come back and they scan you again and they will tell you how much recovery you've had. And I love when you can actually measure something, because that is the most important thing, rather than them just throwing darts on a dartboard thinking you have this, that, or the other. But anyways, it really makes a lot of sense. And this means that very likely I'll be back completely whole again in no time, truthfully. So I'm kind of excited about that. It's not that you're a bad person. It's that you've been injured. It's basically an injury that's occurred, and you have to kind of get back over it. It's not like some of the other mental type problems. They consider this more of a biological thing that's got out of whack. So I've done a lot of research, and there's quite a few videos that I'm going to piece some pieces together from these videos. And the funny thing is, people that are living with somebody with PTSD, they actually can get a secondary PTSD where they've taken on the problem. And even some of the psychotherapists have gotten PTSD from their patients. It's not like it's a virus, but it's just like some of these people are too, is it empathetic, or they're like empaths to the people, and they've taken the problem onto themselves, and they've actually had to change jobs because it wasn't suitable for them. So the but the sad thing is, my wife has had some behavioral problems based on this whole thing blowing up, and it's possible because she's gotten the same thing. And wouldn't that be something if we both have to go through the same treatment and it gets us both back to normal? I mean, I'm looking forward to this, because I think I've probably had this 15 years. I've been fighting something. I didn't know what the heck it was. And it's like, if it's not a broken arm or an ankle or, sinus problems, it's like, who knows how to deal with that? I don't know how to do that. So anyways, today was really exciting. And some of the things, let me just read off some of these symptoms, because I thought this was curious. So intense recollections, such as flashbacks and nightmares. So just like I talked about, that happened today during my nap time. And even this morning, I woke up like 4:30 in the morning because something had come into my mind, and I couldn't get back to sleep. So I had probably no more than 6 hours sleep last night. Inability to recall certain aspects of what happened. So in my case, I don't think it was one event like watching somebody die or something. I think mine was a cumulative type thing. And there is a special PTSD, they call that, where I just was sitting. It was almost like you're in Afghanistan and you're just constantly at war all the time. It's a type of shell shock or something you could imagine. Avoidance of people, places, or things that are reminders of the event. So with PTSD, there's these triggers, and they talked about, let's say you were in a fire, like a house fire or apartment fire, and you had to be rescued, and it was pretty iffy whether you're even going to get out. Just you sitting around a campfire could trigger, because it smells, it sights, it's that kind of thing. So over time, these things will fade away, but before you've been diagnosed and you've been carrying a long time, you're not being treated, these things can be kind of catastrophic. You end up pulling into your shell. And that's what happened with my taxes. I knew that I wasn't feeling right. I don't know, any of you get this thing, like I get this super tight all around my jaw. That's when I know that it's coming on. I don't go into where, I'm curled into a ball or anything, but I'm like, I don't feel right. Something's not right. And it's just anxiety that builds up into you. Distressing memories. And those just kind of come on at any time. And again, I think it's triggers. If you're doing something any remotely, like in my case, work related, it can be a problem. So inability to stop thinking about the incident. I don't really have that because I don't have one particular incident. Increased or excessive anxiety. Yeah, I've had that forever. Heightened fearfulness. When you get the attack, again, it's fight or flight. And so you definitely feel like you have a problem that you don't know what's going on. Always being on guard or jumpy, and I think that's kind of along the same lines. Feeling emotionally numb. Yeah, now I'm going to tell you, this is something that I knew. You're just you're just not all there. You're just kind of here, like I'll give you an example. I used to love fishing. And I was talking to my son today, and I said, the problem has been since I've had this, whatever it has been, it's like too much trouble to get all your fishing gear out, get the boat ready, and go out. It's just too much. And then you come back, got to clean up the whole boat. And so you sit there and you're thinking about, as much as you love to go fishing, it's just too much. And so your energy is not there, or you can't feel the pleasure, and so you don't get the reward for doing it. So I'm going to tell you right now, if they fix this with just some pills initially, I'm going to be living on the damn water, because I just loved being out there. Feelings of guilt or shame. And I'm going to tell you right now, this has been horrible, because I know that the way I've been snapping at my wife, and I just thought, what is wrong with me? Why is this going on? I couldn't control it. And so there's no doubt there's definitely feelings of guilt or shame. And I talked about problems with sleep. We used to try Benadryl, for instance. I took Benadryl for a long time, but what happened is I started getting joint pain. And so I had to quit doing that. So then we took, I can't think of what the other thing is. I never took, the prescribed stuff. I took over the counter stuff, but there was another thing we used to take that a lot of people take for sleeping. And same thing, I'd get joint pain, terrible joint pain. Loss of interest in activities that I used to be enjoyed. Yeah, I talked about that. That was like my fishing. Anger and irritability. Yeah, I mean, you're just not feeling good. It's almost like a sub pain that you're in, that you don't feel pain, but it's obviously something that's just like jabbing you, and because you're so tense that you're on edge, and anybody just looks at you cross, it's going to come out, man. You are just locked and loaded, right? You can be triggered very easily. So then depressive symptoms. I don't know if this is all kind of related. I'd have to look up specifically what depression is, but some of this kind of overlaps. Social isolation. And I would argue, if you're not feeling well, you don't want to be around a bunch of people, because it's just hard. So I think that's just part of it, why you don't want to be around a bunch of people. But I suspect when we go through, all the testing and everything, they're going to label me as like a high-level functional broken brain person. But it's like I've been able to do a lot of stuff, but for socially, like dealing with my wife and everything, it was kind of a disaster. But for most of the time, I could keep it under control. But there were just certain things that would just let it loose. But anyways, there is a test. I think I forgot to write it down, but it was something called a single proton brain scan. I have to do some research to see exactly what that thing is, but apparently they can actually look at the brain and tell how affected you are. There's a guy that I deal with rabbits. We're both rabbit breeders, and we've swapped back and forth for years. He was just here because I'm giving up all my rabbits right now to him. And when I told him what I had discovered, he goes, I got the same problem. He'll have it. He gets treatment for like 2 years. It goes away, and it can be gone for 5 or 6 years. And then he does too much stuff, like the video I showed you the other day, and he gets himself back in the same trouble. And he has to realize he's got to go get treatment, and he's back on track again. But it's like most of the time, it's just the pills they have today are so good. You just take them for a period of time, and then you're done. A lot of the talking that you have with people is maybe for more of the extreme type things. I don't know what mine's going to be determined, but I don't know. So the stress and anxiety is a huge problem. We all need to be careful. In fact, I cautioned my son, because he actually was having a bunch of heart palpitations, here in the last month or so, and he realized he was just working too hard at work, and he needed to do some things to separate. So he's, I'm cautioning him so he doesn't go down the same path, because there's just things that, how do you know that it's just not you that's changed? That's what I didn't know. I mean, shoot, I would have got treated a long time ago if I'd have known what it was. But I've always kind of talked to myself, for years lately, and, that's a sign. I had some really intelligent conversations too, right? Haha. Talk to yourself. So any of you guys gone through this? Because I'm feeling really hopeful here that I'm going to be back on track. I want to be well. I want to be back to where, my wife isn't afraid of me. I want to be able to travel with my grandkids. And right now it's just been weird. So I'm getting rid of all my chickens. Actually, I'm just loaning my chickens to someone right now. Getting rid of my turkeys. I got most of the turkeys and most of the rabbits today. The rest are being taken tomorrow, and the chickens will be gone tomorrow, and my chicks. So I'm going to be free. My goal is to be able to get out and go travel now. I want to be retired. I have not been retired, and that's the mistake, right? I was still carrying my work ethic with me for 35 years, and I need to now be retired. I realize the error of my ways. So I'm about ready to jump in the truck and go drive to see my grandkids, because that's what I want to do first and foremost, after I get, my first level treatment stuff. So I'm really excited. Yeah, I agree. Prayer helps a lot. I've been praying the heck, and I think that's why my mind is getting defogged, so I can kind of address. It's almost like root cause corrective action. You've noticed the way I was trained at work, because I've been showing you my work. So when I do this next video where I show specifically what PTSD and everything is about, then you'll get a flavor. I still have to do a members only live stream. So I may do that this next weekend, because I just wasn't into it yesterday. I'm telling you, I've been at some unbelievable lows over the last month, and now I feel like I'm going to, after working through it, fighting, trying to understand what's happening. I sure wish my wife had been to some of the counseling, because, one of the things, if your brain is broken, you don't recognize some of the things that have happened. And if she had gone there, she could have said, well, look, here's what he said. Here's the things, because she's got it all. Remember the 40 terabyte hard drives, right? She's probably got it all, and it would have helped so much, because I had to keep working to try and understand what it was she was complaining about. It's just not there. I was being broken, my brain being damaged. It didn't register what she was even complaining about. So I think now I get a really good feel, especially when you're sitting there blurting out. God, can you imagine if I was like in a movie theater, kind of, it's almost like you had Tourette's. It's like, geez, why are you cussing? That made no sense, but that's the stress that's underneath. It's inside here. I gotta get that, I think it's cortisol. What happens when you have PTSD, your body is producing way too much cortisol, and it ends up keeping you under this extremely high level stress, which is dangerous, truthfully, for your overall body. So anyways, I like to be open as I'm working through things, so the thought process. If you're having problems, you have to realize you have more data than the doctors do. And so you have to kind of fight through, get as much information so that you can help them. They just, they'll just throw stuff at you, and you want to be as accurate diagnosis as possible, so you get well as quickly as possible. So Saxon Stacker says, I've had really stressful time over the last 3 months, have felt broken too, but also need to adjust because the status quo is not acceptable. Yeah, I agree. I just wish still that as screwed up as I was, I wish my wife had just taken me somewhere. I don't know. I'm sitting here thinking that maybe this is just me now. We were outside for 2 hours loading up all those rabbits and turkeys and checking their sexes, and it was so hot and humid I was soaking wet. So I'm trying to drink 2 or 3 glasses of water to put all my moisture back in. But anyways, this is I hope this works out. I feel really comfortable because I always do my homework, and when you see these videos, I think it'll help a lot of people because, I have just been, this is a different world now. It's so interesting because years ago, you'd have to go to the library and you'd have to camp there for like a week to go through all these different books and try to pull out what you need. But there is so much YouTube content that has been filtered down to even 10 minutes. You sit there and watch 10 minutes and it gives you I call it like the 1,000-foot view that you need. And then they even have things that are down to, the 100-foot. And then they have ones that are down to the 10-foot. And so it really helps me to do kind of my research. And that's how I discovered that it's very likely that my wife may even be affected by this. And holy crap, wouldn't that be amazing that we both get healed? That would be amazing. Because I know we both have been broken. I could tell. I just didn't understand. I thought it's hard to believe that both people could change, but I likely infected her. That's how bad this stuff is. We'll find out. It's early. So tomorrow I have a meeting with my counselor. I'm going to call first thing in the morning with my primary care physician because I likely will need to get medication from them and referral to, this other place that does the brain scans and all that. And I can't wait to see, actually to get the true diagnosis and then actually get, pull up treatment and get well. But a lot of people tell me as soon as they get the medicine and get the dose squared away, it's like an immediate change. Your whole outlook changes. And then it's just, it just takes over the next 2 or 3 months to kind of see if there's one major underlying issue. We used to do that at work. When you'd attack a problem, you'd sit there and you'd find that there's like 10 things wrong, but you'd realize that there's probably only 1 or 2 things that account for 90% of the problem. And once you determine that, you attack that. And then the rest is just, if you want to spend a little more time, you can get there. But everybody, you just need to go after the 90%er, and then the rest kind of fall in place later. Yes. I don't know about you. When I pray, it was something I learned a long time ago. I'll have to go find that sheet of paper. But the first thing you do is you thank God. You thank him for everything that he does for you. You thank him for your family. You thank him for this, that, and the other. And it's like the last sentence is when you say, hey, by the way, if you have a little bit of time, can you help me? But it's almost like you gotta, it's like this petition. You kind of, I don't want to say you're buttering him up, but it's like you recognize that he's the one that can do what you need done. And so that's the way I've always kind of approached it. So many times I'll just start right in blurting out when I know, I say, hold on, back up. Excuse me. Thank you, So anyways, I'm about ready to be set free, I hope. And I'm thinking about sitting down and writing up everything that happened here because I can imagine this being a little bit of a book. Yeah, God being exhausted trying to help us, or who must be so exhausted? I tell you, I've been running on 6 hours sleep for years. It's horrible. And that's why in retirement, I'm fortunate. A lot of times I can sit there and at least take a cat nap in the middle of the day. You know, that always helps. Otherwise, I just won't make it. Sometimes I just have to stay up so late that I'm so exhausted, and then I might get 7 to 8 hours sleep, but it's I'd rather go to bed at 10 o'clock and get up at 6 if I could. I like that schedule. So anyway, I actually feel really good today. This has been, like I said, I feel like it's like when you identify something, it takes some of the load off. It just kind of falls off you. And that's what it feels like. It's getting off my back, because my wife she kept asking me why I was so angry. And I said, I just felt like I had all this weight on my shoulders. It's just, I got the whole world pushing on me. That's the way I felt for years. And so wouldn't that be something if all of a sudden that weight is removed? Now I'm going to tell you that, I started saying, okay, if I really have this PTSD, I got to make some serious changes. So I started putting together a list of things that I'm going to change. And I'm going to save that for another video, but I can't manage my rental properties anymore. It's too much like work. I'm probably going to go get a management company and just turn it over to them. And I may not even get involved in repairs or anything anymore. And then that way they do all the taxes and, for one piece of paper for me. And I think that will make my life a lot less stress-free, or a lot more stress-free. Sorry, I said that backwards. So that was like the first thing that I was thinking about. And then come tax time, it'll be so much easier because we only have 10 other pieces of paper we got to bring in there. So I think life will turn out way better, and that won't be a trigger anymore. But it could be now that I'm going to have my actual cure. It won't be such an issue, but at least for the first couple of years, I got to keep everything away from me. And like I said, go fishing, go golfing, go traveling. I got to do stuff that's retirement. To probably still do my gardening and stuff. Still love my dogs. And man, I wish somebody of my 6,000 subscribers lived near me, because I don't want to put my dogs in a kennel for 3 weeks. I'd like to have, maybe I can spread them out between a couple tenants. That might be better. These are already, what do you call them? They're rescue dogs, and I don't want them to get traumatized by being at a kennel. I want them to be with people, because they're very people oriented now. But we'll see how it goes. So anyways, I wanted to just talk to you guys and let you know this has been quite. Golfing makes you angry. Oh, so let me tell you the story. We used to have a golf league at work. And I wasn't a big fan of golf because, like you said, even on my best days, I would get mad. I never got mad fishing, but I learned with these golf leagues is it would run over the summer. And so I would not play all year, and we'd start out and I would have this humongous handicap. But what I would do is on the weekends, I would practice par threes, because if you think about it, your short game is 90% of your what do you call it, score. And so what would happen is I would improve so dramatically. It was like 90% of the time I would be playing for the championship every year. And it's just because, and people would get mad at me because I didn't have any strategy, because I would just go to the driving range and I would just hit the same way every time. So I knew how to hit my 5-iron 150 yards. I knew how to hit the other thing. And so everybody thought I was just playing cutthroat instead of strategy. And I go, no, you don't understand. I don't really know how to play golf. I'm just I'm just, hitting it the way I know how to hit it. And after they realized that, they quit getting mad at me. But man, they used to get so mad at me. Yeah, stupidity and self-pity. Yeah. Well, you need to look at whatever the underlying causes of that, so you don't have that. It's hard. It's hard to look internally. So, anyways, after looking at me or listening to me for the last couple of weeks, I mean, I feel like I'm different already. We'll just have to see if, and it may be because I've been de-stressing for so long, I've got it back under control, but I think I could even get even further along. But anyways, I want to get out in front of you real quick. Let me see. I didn't see anything moving on the gold and silver yet. This is the time of night when you start seeing some movement. It looks like gold is like 1770 and silver is 1795. So they're both kind of coming down just slightly, but these are just barely any movements. Let me see what the gold silver ratio. Gold silver ratio is 98.6. Hey, that's our temperature, body temperature. Yes, save yourself first and then try to save others. So that was part of it. You've kind of fallen down quite a long ways, and it just takes time to. So the first thing you do when you're in trouble is, if you're digging a hole, quit digging, right? $2010 levels, huh? Yep. Yeah, the golfing thing is you got to be a certain type of people to play that. I actually just enjoyed going to the driving range and doing the little practice greens and chipping and stuff. I enjoyed that better than playing golf. I was a super good bowler years ago too. I carried a 190, 200 average all the time, but because of stuff like this, I lost interest. I couldn't. It was just another stressor. So who knows? A lot of things might come back into play. This is so weird. I wish there was a way you guys could talk on this instead of me having to read everything. I think it'd be so much better. I could hit a button and say, Albert J, talk. This privatizing the Fed. Are you talking about like 100 years ago? Because right now what's happened is the government has taken control of the Fed. It's been real quiet, but that's what's happened. It's under government control, and I think that's what's happening. All these central banks are now being taken over by their governments. This is the end of the central banks. That's the next step. They're boxed in a corner. They can't do anything now. They got nowhere to go. All right. Well, I just wanted to get on here real quick with you guys and let you know what was happening. I got on here late tonight because he didn't even leave till 9 o'clock. Yeah, I've been trying to filter through all of the garbage and give you the signal. And it's signal to noise, right? There's so much noise out there. It's a lot of misdirection. Anybody remember the episode with Star Trek where Picard was turned into a Borg, and they were coming to attack Earth. And Riker came up with a plan to kind of distract the Borg, and so they had like fireworks going all over the place, and it was so that they could get in and capture Picard and do all this. I believe most of what you see happening right now, this is distractions to keep your eye off the real ball of what's happening. And I think it's going to be, we're where we need to be. We're in the right spot, but they don't want everybody to know that. So they're making all these distractions and fake moves, and it's almost like a football game. They're got players moving around this way and that way, and you got to realize that's all this is. This is a game that's going on. I believe everybody's playing a part. And this one day you're going to notice everything's changed. All right, so why don't we shut this down at this point? I don't want to get overstimulated where I can't sleep tonight. So I appreciate you guys coming on, and so I can tell you what was happening, because to me, this is pretty exciting, knowing that I could actually be well. Not just drugged up. They could actually fix me, and I could be completely normal and back to the husband that my wife originally married. I think that would be amazing. Who would have thought it could have worked that way? What do you mean, no, carry on, dude? Oh, you mean stay on here longer? Is that what you're saying, Saxon Stacker? You want me to do a full hour? I may have to go get more water if I do that. I'll tell you, I'm actually famished. I sweat so much, I couldn't believe how sweaty I was. It's just the humidity is unbelievable here. Terrible. So what else you want to talk about? This was the only thing that I had on my mind. There was so many things I had reviewed, and it's funny. I would sit here, do my research like I was going to do a show, and I usually bring up these news articles, and I'll have tabs at the top. I put them in order so that I can just kind of go bump, bump, bump all the way through. So I spend quite a bit of time researching, finding the things I want to talk about. And there were 2 times where I did all this research, had it all set up there, and then I just didn't feel right to be able to do it. And I didn't want to do a crappy show. And I was in such a poor mood that I didn't even copy the URL and put it in my Word document. And so the next day I had to go find them again, bring them all up, and I still couldn't do it. So it's like, I hope now that I'm back to where I can start getting regular shows out. I've been taking little videos here and there of different things, but it's like you don't have the energy, especially if you're not eating. That's part of it. I'm contemplating just going to like Waffle House, and so that somebody cooks something for me, and then I might actually eat better. And if I just take my time and sit there and drink tea and kind of do it, I might be able to eat more. But so the Nasara Gasar, I've looked at all of that stuff, and it has not gone through anywhere in Congress. So right now it looks like there's, oh man, I'm gonna tell you, I've lost 25 pounds at least. I don't think there's any chance of that right now, unless everything just completely falls apart. So right now there's nothing out there. It's not going anywhere. It's a pipe dream. If you go look at what's happening in some of these states like Florida, what's happening is they're having increased testing, that's meaningless, because if it's the younger population, it's just the flu to them. It doesn't do anything. we're not necessarily seeing overwhelmed hospitals. We're not necessarily seeing increased death rates. So it's a nothing muffin. We'll just have to see. But you think about it, you got a whole bunch of goofballs out there rioting and everything, and a lot of them are the most susceptible people. So, what are you going to say? That's almost like Darwin Award stuff. Yeah, I can't wait to weigh myself in the morning after another day of just not eating anything. Yeah, the death count is the key thing, or the death rate, I guess you should say. Remember, the more they test, the more they detect, but it's also, there's more negatives too. And so overall, they're trying to get an overall thing. You're going to find that this thing was always a nothing muffin. They just overreacted. By the way, when I do these live streams, is the sound the same as like in my videos? Because I guess when I do the replay, I'll be able to tell. Yeah, I kind of want to go ahead and get the thing so I can get it over with, but I'm out in the middle of nowhere. It's like it'd be really hard. Now, if I go traveling across the country, I may, who knows, pick it up somewhere, but I'm not planning on, being around a bunch of people. Yeah, some guy got ate by a shark the other day, and somehow he died of COVID. He must have had it before he got ate. So did you guys all go see fireworks? I went to bed like 8:30. I didn't even we didn't even watch anything. I didn't watch TV. I don't ever watch TV. No, I have not talked to the wife. I wrote a little something up for my son and said, please send this to her because I want her to start thinking that this is going to potentially be different than what she's thought. You got to imagine up to this point, she thought I was an abusive husband. She thought that I was evil, that something had changed in me. And I mean, something did change in me, but it's in fact, I was injured. I'm damaged. And this is kind of no different than like if you break an arm, you got to go through a healing process and then you're back fine again. And then I just have to make sure I'm careful not to fall back in the same trap. Now, the beautiful thing about this is I'm not trying to wrestle with this when I'm 30 years old and I've still got, 30 years of work in front of me. I'm retired. Can you imagine the perfect time to get diagnosed with this? It's like I can just say, screw it, I'm not doing, things that cause stress. And if it's work related, well, I'm just not going to work, right? I got ways to kind of work around this. Now, it just means that my business won't be as profitable, but, my time is money too. Yeah, I just want to get my appetite back because I haven't had barbecue in forever. I really haven't eaten anything spicy because it's just, I'm not well right now. The funny thing is, I really need to get down to about 190. So I need to lose maybe about 10 or 12 more pounds, and then I'll be closer to my optimal weight. And then I'm going to see if I can't maintain it after that. Man, that'd be amazing. I haven't been to 200 in years, and I'm just about at 200. So I may have to tell them to delay the treatment till I get where I need to be, right? Yeah, I don't know that I would say I was wearing myself out for riches. I was trying to provide for my family, and I was using my gifts, which I was really good at. I think I should have. I don't know. We just something snapped, right? That's kind of what happens with this PTSD, and I just was not right after that. So think about radiation you get from the sun. The sun radiates energy. Um, Cell towers radiate energy, but it's the is it the square root law? What is it called? I forget what the name of it is, but basically, um, as you move away, it's like a logarithmic decrease in the amount of energy that you're exposed to. So when you look at these cell towers, how there's a reason why they're so high up in the air, and they're also directional because they're keeping the energy away from people. Um, Now, this thing right here is actually the most dangerous thing. Forget those cell towers because many of these have a lot of energy that you're putting right up against your head. You're better off doing like the Bluetooth earbuds or using the speaker feature or the Bluetooth in your car than doing this because you're putting that transmitter right next to one, your eyes are soft tissue, also your brain. And this is the actual most dangerous thing you could use before you, um, besides those antennas. It's not what you think. The energy from those, because they're so far away, is totally different. This is way more energy. It's very easy to measure the field strength of this stuff. I wonder how much a field strength meter is. I can demonstrate that for you. Also, like your router, get that thing way to hell away from you. That's got a lot of power, especially one for like a large house like this. I've got one that covers the whole house. So you don't want any of those things next to you. Like at night, your phone needs to be off. Your router needs to be clear on the other side of the house. So look, I was an engineer in military complex. We had all kinds of equipment because we used to have to go sniff across the factory because we were getting interference in some of our tests, and we'd go figure out what it was that was, you know, sometimes it was a bad cable on some test equipment or whatever, but even those were very low level signals, but it was enough to interfere with what we were doing. So it's very easy to go look at these things. All right, well, we got 10 more minutes. Again, it has to do with the power level for 5G. The military is using things totally different for different purposes. They have a way to focus these things to be able to, for crowd control, and um, they could actually implant words into your head, like they can transmit, focus it to like an individual and talk to you where nobody can hear it. There's all kinds of really neat things they can do, but that's not the same thing that they're using 5G for, you know, for your internet. It's not the same technology. I got a feeling guidance 2222 is just a goofball here. We'll just do a little timeout. He's spamming the crap out of us. So even though I'm a religious man, I don't want to force it on anybody else. I don't want to make anybody else uncomfortable. If anybody ever wants to talk to me about Christian stuff, I have my email posted, and any of the members can actually call me on my phone. In fact, I've got a Skype number that people can call me. I mean, don't get carried away, but every once in a while we can talk. I talk to several members all the time, but yeah, I haven't watched Cliff High in a while. He's a little bit out there, him and his so-called bots and stuff. I'm more a little along the mainstream. I like to watch like Macro Voices and Palisades Radio and a couple other things. I'm looking at macro views of things. I'm not looking at like this oddball stuff that some of these like Cliff High and Bix Weird and others do. It's more of I think the world is not that crazy. But there could be some truth in some of the stuff. Yeah, I don't know about those salt lamps. I've seen them. I think they're beautiful as anything. And my mom used to have several of those, but I never got one of them. I don't even have any room on my shelf for one up there. So just to let you know, one of the things I've been doing is I've been kind of cleaning the house up. I mean, I'm somewhat of a pack rat, and so I kind of cleaned up the basement some. I'm not done yet, but I cleaned up quite a bit of the basement. And then I had a bunch of stuff up here that I was using for canning and everything else, and it was kind of clogging up my wife's beautiful dining area. So I took all that stuff downstairs, and we just kind of had stuff shoehorned in all kinds of places, and I got it all out of here, and the house looks much better. Tomorrow I have to go through and vacuum the whole house, because where we had stuff sitting, we had, it looked like dead rats because, dog hair was all piled up all around that. I've actually took like our guest room and took all the sheets off the bed and washed them and put them back. And I got to do our sheets on our bed tomorrow. And I'm trying to maintain the way my wife used to do it, and possibly even better. The whole top of we've been in this house for 3 years, and I realized like the tops of the windowsills were just loaded with dust. So I went and just took a sponge and I started wiping the top of all those. And then you go down and look at the baseboards, and like all the baseboards look like crap. It's like, oh man, I hate bending over. I'm terrible with back. It's actually probably gonna be better now that I lost weight. So anyways, we're going to, hopefully the house will be even better than, before she left. That's what I'm trying to get to. Even like you look at my bookshelf back here, it's a mess. I need to organize my bookshelf and get everything straight. It's time to get the urge to purge. Well, I'm glad it's been a great chat. I'm trying to, like I said, just reach out to everyone. I've been incognito, but there hasn't been a whole lot going on either. So I'm hoping, I want to get in a schedule of at least every other day. It's not going to be every day unless something major happens. Like I said, I have one video I want to do tomorrow about PTSD, and that'll kind of finish off my whole marriage thing. And there'll probably be a follow-up later once I kind of go through that whole process, because it's curious to me how that works. Here's another problem of kind of living in the sticks, because there's like PTSD support groups, there's divorce support groups, but none anywhere near where I'm at, because we're in the middle of nowhere. So I've got to travel like halfway to dang Atlanta to go to one of those things, but I felt like I need to start engaging. But almost all these things are shut down because of the COVID, and they're doing like online stuff, which is not even close to the same as if you're with someone, you know. Guidance 777. Are you trying to copy me, man? Dobson777. Oh, I got an A on mine. You need to add an A. Get with the program. Yeah, need to chill, eat well, stress less, love more. Tomorrow's full of promise. Yeah, tomorrow's a big step. I don't think I'll actually get to a primary care physician until later in the week, but I want to get moving. You know, when I had, there's been multiple things in my life, like I had in, what do you want to call it? My 40s, I started having like indigestion. I had one of those Tums containers on my desk from Sam's Club, big monster thing. And I'd be eating those things like candy because my damn stomach was just always screwing up. And you go to the doctor and the doctor says, here, take Nexium. Well, it turns out I had celiac disease and I could not tolerate wheat anymore. And I mean, beer has other types of glutens like barley and hops and that kind of stuff. And I couldn't even drink beer anymore. It was just like tearing me up. And I just read an article and I ended up making an appointment with the doctor. And I go, what the hell? Why didn't you guys tell me that this could have been a possibility? I go, well, that's like a 10%, or, you know, most people, they just take the Nexium. And, you know, like, you guys were killing me still because it wasn't fixing the problem. So I ended up solving that. But I mean, that was painful because 20 years ago, they did not have all this gluten-free stuff. And then I had that sarcoidosis a couple of years ago, and the same thing, you know, they told me you got this, and I read about it. I was like, oh my God, this is a horrible disease. And actually started going to the medical journals and downloading technical papers of people that have identified that there was potential cures. And I started sending those to the doc. I said, why you got me on this prednisone and stuff? This is what we need to do. She goes, I didn't know anything about this. So then she found some newer papers and she agreed to treat me using those technical papers, and we ended up curing. And then later that year, I was still having a problem with, like at night, you'd lay down, you couldn't sleep. And it was when I ate like greasy stuff. And I told my doctor, I said, I think my gallbladder screwed up. And so they sent me to a gastroenterologist, and he's like, well, we got a test for that. Go take this test. And sure enough, my gallbladder was basically clogged. It wasn't doing its job anymore. So, I mean, within a few days, he had me scheduled for an operation, and it fixed that problem. I knew right away that that was done. So I think the same thing here. Again, you have more data, you know, take control of yourself the best you can and try to solve your problems. Some of these I've been living with way too long. I just thought it was natural, right? All right, well, I think I'm going to shut it down. We're at 58 minutes and 20 seconds. So we've done an hour. Thank you, Saxon Stacker, for having me hang on a little bit longer, but now you're probably going to make it where I can't sleep tonight. Thanks a lot. I'm just kidding. I'll probably sleep pretty good tonight. All right. Hope everybody's treating you well. I hope you're doing well. Do the best you can. God bless.